So you finished your big project or book or whatever it is you're working on, and you're wondering what should you do next. Or maybe let's say you're trying to decide on what to do next, and you're wondering what would be some helpful principles on guiding yourself into that next big project. That's the point of this video. And what I'm looking forward to talking about is I finished my most recent graphic novel, a book called Deepwater Creek. It's coming out, just announced, on August 26th of 2025, but you can pre-order it now. And here's the cool front cover that I painted that I'm super proud of. And yeah, I can't believe that this book is over. It was a tremendous undertaking to get this book finished. I don't think I've ever worked harder on anything in my life. So I'm enjoying some downtime, and that's why I want to talk about this. But first, if you're not a subscriber to this channel, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm a comic book artist. I wrote and drew a book called The Sleepover, which is available wherever books are sold. And I talk on this channel about productivity and sort of how to be a creator. And I also talk about role-playing games and writing using story prompting tools, things like that, where I just kind of explore the idea of having fun with storytelling through gamification. So if that interests you, I'll talk more about that later, but yeah, like and subscribe. So diving into this process, like I said, I recently finished the book Deepwater Creek, and I am currently enjoying a down period of sort of rest and relaxation, hopefully, in which I'm able to sort of recuperate from what amounted to about 2.5 years or so of really difficult work. And I'm just excited to kind of recalibrate, but I also like to go into this period of time with some intentionality. There are things that I like to do when I'm in between projects, and that, like I said, is what I think is the basis of this video and what I want to talk about. So there's 3 things I like to do in my down period of time that I think will help you all as well. And the first one that I want to talk about is taking the time for reflection. So often when I'm in the middle of one of these big projects, it's really difficult to sort of take the time to slow down and just think about like, how are things going? You know, and I mean that like in my life. Am I disappointed in anything? Am I discouraged by something? Is there something in my life that's holding me back? Whatever the case might be. And so taking a period of time in which you really step back and you look at your life, and this could be after a project or just like in general, if you've never done this, it's a really helpful period just to kind of ask this list of questions. So for instance, real recently, I took a trip up to Boston for work, and on my trip there, I just created a new notebook in my Kindle Scribe that just was filled with prompts that I wanted to explore. And these were prompts like, what am I currently feeling discouraged by? What am I excited by? What sort of projects would I like spending the next couple of months working on? What are my business plans for the future? And just sort of taking stock of life and where things are and sort of how I'm doing. And what's really cool about this is that, you know, the person you are when you often start one of these projects is a different person than you are at the end of one of these projects. Often life and things like that come along and sort of will take over, and having the ability to stop, take a step back and think about all these things can be immensely helpful. And again, if you've never done it at all, there's this concept called life-centric planning, where you envision the sort of life that you want to have and you work your way backwards. And so we're not necessarily talking about jobs, although that's a part of it, but you think about like, if I were to manage my day, you know, from morning to night, and an ideal day would look like what? And then you sort of write those things down and you sort of explore them and see, you know, are there changes you can make to help you get closer to that? Sometimes it's a job. Sometimes it's just different decisions. Currently, I'm sort of in this process. I'm allowing myself to be inspired and think about interesting concepts. I've got a kind of an idea of where I want to go creatively, but I've kind of run pretty empty on the tank for the last few months creatively because I've just kind of kept my head down and have been just working really hard. So I'm kind of just enjoying the process of exploring things, having fun, being inspired, all that good stuff. In fact, I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, which is a reward I got myself for finishing. And man, I'm having a great time with that. It's super cool. And I love that they built in the ability to do the game co-op with other people on the couch or over online. It's just a lot of fun. Super enjoy it. And I'm also reading a lot of books and taking notes and playing games and just kind of letting myself have more relaxing days than normal. And that's been pretty awesome. Alongside of this sort of self-evaluation, one of the things I do creatively that I think is helpful is I actually make lists of the things that I think are weaknesses within my creative process. So whether it's the way I color, or the way I write something or draw certain things, I will make lists of those things and try to better them. This will go on for months until I'm finally working on a new book in earnest. But the idea here is to treat it sort of like an off-season program if you're an athlete or something like that, where you take the time to really sort of explore and hone in on things that you didn't have time for during the regular season of creating a project, to better your weaknesses. So for me personally, I've got a couple things that I'm looking at improving on. One, I want to get better at being able to write stories very quickly, meaning like shorter things, not needing some massive, gigantic inspiration to create an idea, but rather treating something like it's a writing job. Like, so I can express themes or motives. Like if I was a writer on a TV show or something like that, and I had a story I needed to turn in next week, having the ability to do that. I've not really done much of that in the past, so I'm trying to explore some ways of doing that. And that's where the solo role playing thing is becoming fun, because I can sit down literally with like no idea of the kind of story I want to tell. And through the organic process of playing a game and using these story prompts, I make some advancements. And I also want to work on how I draw adults in my books. So when I was a kid, I wanted to draw comics, superhero comics, because that's what was out there. And now that I draw kids comics, I think there's sort of like a weird amalgamation in my art with the adult characters. Other people say they don't see it, but I feel it. And so I kind of want to work on that and getting better at it. Next up, so the second thing I want to talk about is making concerted time for the people in your life. So again, one of the things that sort of happens through the process of being so busy on one of these projects is, at a certain point, other relationships start to take a back seat because I become so busy with the project. It's something I try to avoid at all costs, obviously. I like to try to balance my life in such a way that I don't have to do this sort of thing. But with this book in particular, the work became so big, and the amount of time it was taking to get it done was so big that I needed that time and that space. And so unfortunately I had to sort of like end some of my tabletop groups that I was playing in. I wasn't able to go to churches frequently or hang out as often, just because I had to kind of get this thing done. And now that it is, I want to make sure I fall back into a pattern of life that incorporates things that I find to be meaningful, which is time with my wife or my kids and my friends and my family at large. And so that's something I've been doing a lot of time with. Like I was saying, one of the fun things with Baldur's Gate 3 is my son and I are playing it together on the couch, like in the mornings. It's been a fun way to bond and to play something cool and to play games together, because I know he loves games and I love games, and we rarely find something that we both enjoy doing at the same time. One of the things I've really enjoyed over the last couple of years has been having a regular sort of tabletop group with friends from church and otherwise, and it's been a really cool way to like bond with other people and see them in a context where we get just to have some fun and tell stories. So I'm looking forward to more time just with other people, and not feeling like I should be getting to the table. Like and again, like part of that sort of life-centric planning is looking at life and going, obviously an imbalance was created somewhere. And for you, that might mean, if you've never done this process before, looking at your life and saying, maybe I don't have any balance at all. I lean too much on leisure and not enough on work. And looking at that and going, how could I fit more work into my schedule because all I do is favor my leisure? Which dovetails into part 3, which is that I start slowly working towards something. So during this down period, I don't just suddenly start working full speed ahead on the next project. While I'm in this sort of down period, I want to take the time to sort of, like I said, take stock of life and think about the things I want to be working on. But also, like, once I decide on the project I want to be doing next, I really start to begin to slowly build into that process. So, for instance, I had a recent conversation with my agent about the next book I want to make. We're both in agreement about what that project is going to be, what I want to try to do. And so now I will begin slowly building that up. And often what I find is that we have this thing called like your subconscious genius, right? This part of your brain that is constantly working through processes and things just as you're going. What I try to do is make sure that I'm making a little bit of time every day to work on some sort of project. And right now, since I'm in this sort of in-between time, that can be literally whatever I want it to be. It can be this YouTube channel, it can be the next book I'm working on, or a couple of smaller projects that I'll talk about in a minute. But I try to make sure at least like 30 minutes to an hour is being dedicated to one of these projects in a manner which I don't feel much pressure. So, when I'm under deadline, there's a lot of pressure and you got to go, right? But right now, there's no one's really asking for anything from me. So I can take my time to slowly develop the next thing at a pace in which I feel comfortable with and allow myself to be inspired. But then at some point, obviously, that'll ramp up. So what I'm currently doing is I'm keeping like a single purpose notebook in my pocket or on my Kindle Scribe where I'm taking notes and developing ideas for this next project. There's not a whole lot I'll say about it at this point other than that it is a series project. I really strongly believe that for me, the next thing I need to do is move into some sort of series type project, something that I think can grow and build over time. And I have a project that I'm super excited by, and I plan to talk a lot more about it on this channel as I get there. But at the moment, I kind of want to just explore this thing on my own. But I'm making a little bit of time every day to either be inspired by something that encourages me with it, or, gives me some new ideas, or make some notes on it, or whatever the case might be. And like I said, one of the things I'm doing sort of in this down period is I've got a list of like small projects that I've been putting off. And so I'm trying to make sure I'm making time for those small projects. So I can go ahead and tell you all the things that I'm working towards because I think it'll be fun. I am working on a module for the Mothership, a role-playing game. I play this game with my kids sometimes, and I also enjoy it just sort of like from a solo play level. And I really want to try my hand at some TTRPG module writing some adventures. And this is a game that I really like. It's pretty rules light. It allows me to explore horror. And so I want to try putting together a short module that I can put up for sale on Drive-Thru RPG or something like that. So that's coming up shortly. I also want to formalize a lot of the thoughts that I put together in the solo role-playing, the writing with solo role-playing video series that I made, because I'm starting to notice that like people are catching on to that video and it's becoming one of my most viewed pieces of content. And which is really exciting because I really love this idea and I want to do a lot more with this sort of thing. And so sort of the two immediate short-term projects I'm spending time on are a TTRPG module for Mothership and a zine or ebook or something for the solo role-playing guide to writing. Both of those, obviously, I'll announce as they get ready and I'll do videos about them and all that sort of thing. And then lastly, the thing I'd like to spend a little bit more time on is this YouTube channel. It's been kind of growing, but I've not been able to spend a lot of time on it, and I want to make sure I'm continuing to grow the channel and continuing to create content for you all that I think would be useful. And so I plan to do this a little bit more regularly. I'm hoping for at least a couple videos a month. And what I'm thinking I want to do is sort of have a balance between productivity videos, but also sort of fun exploration of these solo role-playing tools and writing and exploring sort of like the process of creativity and things that I find to be helpful. And the next one I want to do is actually a review and / solo play session of the game The Electric State. So Free League Press or Free League Publishing sent me a copy of their new game, The Electric State. There's a movie coming out for it next year with starring Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown. And I want to do a review of the book, and I also wanted to do like a solo play session through an entire adventure set in that world. I really enjoyed the Tales from the Loop game, which is also a game I want to do a video about in the future. But I want to do that. I want to sort of rethink how I do the solo play stuff because I think I was sort of teeing it up as this thing that would happen like over many videos. But what I think would be best is try to do just like one-shot adventures in these worlds so that I can sort of explore the game and have fun with it. And also make sure that you all get a beginning, a middle, and an end to whatever story I set up. And then if one of them becomes like something we're all really having a lot of fun for, maybe it turns into an ongoing series or something. But for the most part, I just have like all these games I've not played that I want to play, and I figured let's do it on the channel. That sounds fun. So that's what's going on in my world. I'm really looking forward to stepping back into all this and spending more time with you all in the ramp up to Deepwater Creek's release, as well as the next project I'm working on. If you are interested in my discussing the topic of writing and solo play, like I said, that video is kind of getting more and more popular. Feel free to check out the video link here. It'll take you to a playlist of all the videos within that series, and you'll be able to jump straight in and learn more about this process of using games to write. I look forward to talking to you all more soon. Talk to you later. Bye.